Brian, I don't like to watch him. I don't like to listen to him. I like to read my news, and it's bad enough just reading the sorts of things that he says written out when I occasionally am forced to actually watch him do what he does. Then I am just ever struck by what a meat and potatoes approach he has to what most people would approach as statesman-like oratory. I mean, what he's doing is the sorts of people that he watched on TV starting in the late 50s and into the early 70s. And really, although, I mean, technically he doesn't drink, he is your uncle sitting by the pool with a beer. That beer is likely a Budweiser. And he's just kind of running his mouth in a colorful way and enjoying the attention of his little nieces and the teenager from next door. But the problem with this is that it shows something more general about him. This goes beyond language. I cannot think of a president in the grand succession we've had who has spent so little effort in trying to be something larger than that swimming pool Budweiser basic. He never tries. So you think of, say, an aristocrat like Franklin D. Roosevelt, who actually forges something like the New Deal. He wasn't thinking about that when he was a kid. John F. Kennedy, you know, to tell the truth, there weren't a lot of things he always had his mind on until he became president, and he was about to do great things. Lyndon B. Johnson was somebody who, frankly, was a very parochial, undereducated, bigoted Texan, and the Great Society comes from him. Donald Trump never does anything that stretches beyond exactly what he was when. And I have this on good authority. This is somebody who took a rather gentle child in his neighborhood when he was a teenager and hung that kid out the window by his feet and enjoyed watching him yell. I have it on good authority, believe me, as Trump says. He's never gotten beyond being that little nose-picking jerk. He's just exactly what he was when he began. It strikes me that even after almost 2 years, he's never had the slightest impulse to grow. That's what you see in his oratory. He just gets up there and talks when any other president, I'm sure Zachary Taylor, tried to orate. And here we are. We think of ourselves as using grammar and putting words in it. But there's a modern way of thinking of how language works. You've got your words, you've got things you do with them, like you put an ED at the end to make it in the past. Then you have your expressions, like, what are you doing here? Or believe me, or goodness gracious, or I'll be hornswoggled. Those are words too. So it's really just your big sandbox full of words. It's just that whose is bigger? And what's interesting is that when he uses those same expressions over and over again, what it shows is that he has a small vocabulary, because all of those expressions are words as well. So a certain kind of person has a certain size and can pick and can choose. As you get older, especially if you're a relatively, experienced person, say in the public eye, you have kind of a smorgasbord. You try to vary it. But the most inarticulate thing about him is that he uses such a limited vocabulary. And we're not only talking about the sort of Salisbury steak, meat and potatoes. It often sounds like he's only got about 2.5, and it's because he doesn't strive to adorn his speech at all. There's no art in the man. You can't imagine him tapping his foot, reading a book, having a favorite song, and in the same way, with speech, he just lets it all fall out of his mouth like he swallowed some marbles and decided to spit them out one day by the pool with the beer.